It's on Citizen FM 93.7. My name is Lawrence Umoette. Well, it's another fresh working week. And as usual, a lot is happening in the media space. Controversies, policy issues, socio-political matters, all of them competing for attention for the traditional media, or the mainstream media, as some will call it. It's not always an easy task for gatekeepers to decide what goes in or out, what the public gets to read, listen to, or hear at the end of the day. On Inside today, we will stay with some of these unfolding issues in the public space. And to do that, we have the people who determine what goes in and what goes out in the traditional media. Editors I'm talking about. And so actually we are supposed to have two guests in the studio. One of them is already here. The other will join us as soon as possible. But one of them is here, Amadine Uyi. He is the Bureau Chief, News Central, and is also the head of Northern Operations for that outfit. Amadine, thank you so much for being here this Monday morning.
Thank you, Lawrence. It's always a delight to be on Insight.
I know that on Mondays are very tight days for editors, but then the job has to go on. Thank you so much, Amadine, for your presence here. And we are still expecting our second guest, Bode Gbadebo, who is an online editor at the Leadership newspapers. I spoke to him a couple of minutes ago, and he will join us in the next few minutes. Both of them, foot soldiers and gatekeepers at the end of the day, and they will help us make sense of a lot of these developments. And so, welcome once again to the program. You can join our live stream on YouTube by typing in Citizen FM 93.7. You can also listen to us online on www.citizenfm.ng, and also not forgetting our social media platforms. On Facebook, at Citizen FM Abuja. On Instagram, at Citizen FM 937. And also on Twitter, at Citizen FM 937. By 10:30, we will open the phone lines. But for now, we look at a few of the unfolding issues that are dominating the media space today. Amadine, let's start from far away Guinea-Bissau. Our president is the new chair of ECOWAS. Had a speech yesterday.
The ECOWAS heads of government, authority, heads of state and government. Mm-hmm. That is it, not the ECOWAS Commission.
Yes, no, not the ECOWAS Commission. I'm talking about the chair of the ECOWAS committee for the ECOWAS committee for the full at ECOWAS heads of state, actually. Yes. So President Bola Tinubu is the chairman, and that's some cherry news for Nigeria.
It shows you the position ECOWAS Nigeria has within the ECOWAS sub-region and the continent. You know, it is us here in Nigeria that don't even appreciate our standing on the continent and in the West African sub-region. If you have an opportunity to travel out of this country, you'll find out that Nigeria is highly respected. First of all, you see President Bola Tinubu was just sworn in barely 1.5 months ago, and the ECOWAS authority, heads of state and governments, have already pushed that button to him to chair that body. That body is a decision-making body at the highest level. They interface with the ECOWAS Commission at the ECOWAS Parliament, and they are trying to ensure that, trying to work towards the prosperity and growth of the sub-region. You know, President Bola Tinubu had visited, first of all, before that meeting, he had visited the Nigerian contingent, part of the ECOWAS peacekeeping force there in Bissau, the capital of Guinea-Bissau, which had, and just the permanent secretary of the Minister of Defense said it. He said this country is at peace because of this contingent. Nigeria has the highest number of soldiers in that contingent, and even the head of that ECOWAS standby force is a brigadier general. Brigadier General Grema is a brigadier general from the Nigerian army. So you see that across the continent we have that respect. Yes, we know we have cases of a few of Nigerians trying to paint us in bad name, going to do drugs and trying to see that Nigeria's name is brought to disrepute, but it still doesn't change the fact that 1 in 4 or 5 black Africans is a Nigerian. And Nigeria has the highest this thing. We are the largest country in on the continent, the biggest economy on the continent, and in fact, somebody made a statement a few days ago. I think it was the INEC, this thing, National Commission for Information. He said that if you count the voting population in the whole of the West African sub-region, the voting population in Nigeria is the voting population in the entire West Africa. So when we are conducting an election, everybody sits down. It's thought that the world will come down to an end. Yet these countries admire our capacity, our capability, our what we are able to manage our situation despite this high number of Nigerians. So giving it to the president yesterday was not surprising. It was just an affirmation to say we recognize you, we respect you, we're in Nigeria. Nobody can take the place of Nigeria when you talk of international politics and others. And remember clearly, one of the messages the ECOWAS authority heads of state, one of the things they've been fighting against, there are 2 key issues. First of all, insecurity in West Africa and in Sahel. Then also the coup d'etat have been. I attended their meeting in December when they met in Abuja, and they all agreed that there was going to be a standby force. That anytime there was a coup on the subcontinent, sub-region, that the standby force will go into that country and tell those that no, you cannot. And that was the president of Guinea yesterday. He was rallying others and said, see, we have agreed. We have to now match our words with action. And that was why President Bola Tinubu was chosen, because Nigeria being the largest country on the subcontinent, if Nigeria does not agree with whatever decisions that they make, it will not stand.
All right. As Amadine was speaking, our second guest, walked in, Bode Gbadebo, who is online editor at the Leadership newspaper. Bode, thank you so much for making it.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Abuja.
I know, Bode, I know that today it's always a very tight day for you, but we don't take this for granted. We really appreciate your presence. So, Bode, as you came in, Amadine we were talking about President Tinubu's emergence as the ECOWAS chair yesterday, and saying that whichever way we look at it, it's a plus for the country in terms of diplomacy, and even in terms of the president's legitimacy. Also, this has gone a long way to boost it. Exactly.
Yeah, image-wise, it's a plus for Nigeria. You know, I wouldn't know if this has happened before, that a president less than 2 months in office is taking over the leadership of a regional bloc like ECOWAS. But then, you know, it's not surprising as well. This thing has already been arranged in a certain order. Yeah. Probably Tinubu is it is the turn of Nigeria to assume the leadership of ECOWAS. And again, remember, was it last Saturday that the president of Guinea was in Lagos during the Salah to see Tinubu? You recall that when he left, the media advisor to the president, Mr. Dele Alaki, actually issued a statement saying Nigeria at that time was ready to assume leadership. In Africa. That's to tell you that Mbalo actually came to tell Tinubu that, okay, prepare yourself. when you come for this 63rd ordinary session of the Authority of ECOWAS Heads of State and Government, this is what we happen, and it has actually happened. It's a plus for the country, image-wise. It confirms our position as a force to reckon with in the West African sub-region and also the African continent, that Nigeria cannot be toyed with. And it is now left for us, every responsibility, every position, every opportunity come with a commensurate responsibility. So it's not left for us to justify the confidence reposed in us. When the president was speaking to the session yesterday, he said ECOWAS will no longer allow coups in Africa, coups in West Africa. And you ask yourself, what is coup? Coup, simply put, is a political instability. When you have unexpected and sudden change of government against the laws of the land. What are the see? It is not enough to say enough to coups. What is important is to put mechanism in place to stop coups. And when Tinubu was speaking yesterday, I was very, very happy. But at the same time, on the other hand, I felt somehow. You know why? He mentioned rule of law. And you ask yourself, do we go by rule of law in Nigeria? And two cases readily came to mind. The issue of the suspended CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, and the suspended chairman of the EFCC, Abuja.
Okay.
Yes, I was asking myself, we have a new ECOWAS chairman. He went to the sub-regional level to preach rule of law. But back at home, we might be lacking the same, in the sense that I expected the government to have everything on these people before moving against them. And as we speak, almost 3 weeks in detention, they should be appearing in courts. They should not be in detention without anybody knowing what is their offense officially. Anything we are saying about them now is within the realm of speculation. Nobody officially has come out to say this is the offense officially of Emefiele. This is the offense of Abdulrasheed Bawa. What the government told us, abuse of office. You know what abuse of office? It can mean many things. So rule of law, we have to live by example. We don't just arrest people and put them in detention without going through the nation's legal process. People should not be in detention for 2 weeks, 3 weeks without appearing in court. It's against the rule of law.
But I think I see that from a different perspective, because if you observe that last week we had a ranking senator was arrested, and which was linked to the Emefiele. Even, you see, sometimes a lot of these crimes, when committed, especially when you are in office, you don't do it alone. There are several high-ranking Nigerians who partner with you, who are also complicit in that crime. So when you are arrested, it's not just because they like your face at that place in detention. They have to be able to squeeze as much as they can squeeze from you, so that everybody involved will face the music. Now, we know Emefiele was suspended and arrested, but the DSS and others have said the times without number that they are undergoing investigation. And if not, the so-called high-ranking senator that was arrested last week, and we heard it was linked to the Emefiele issue, would not have been arrested. Now, I don't think we can relate that to what the events in Guinea-Bissau, because, first of all, I said that at the last ECOWAS authority meeting, they agreed, because there are presently about 3 countries in Africa that have that issue: Burkina Faso, Mali, and which other countries? So while I recall, if you have followed the Mali incidents, where the military rulership in Mali have consistently pushed the date they have said that there will be an end. That was why the ECOWAS authority heads of states and governments said, no, we are going to use force. Because when Mali happened, I think Mali happened before Burkina Faso. While they were complaining, everybody are now assuming that ECOWAS is a toothless bulldog. And we know, remember the days of ECOMOG, the days of ECOMOG where they brought an end to that war in Sierra Leone and Liberia. So we cannot say that ECOWAS does not have the capacity. But you know, in international diplomacy, you first of all, you know that the whole negotiations will end on the negotiating table. But you don't start with conflict or violence. You first try to negotiate. If there is a breakdown, it will be clear that you have given so and so authorities an opportunity to retrace their steps, and they have refused. Because whether you like it or not, the citizens of those countries, that action, that quest for power, President Tinubu said it. He said if you go to the rationale behind why a military was set up, it is set up to defend the territorial integrity of the country. There is no army that generates revenue in the world. They are being funded by taxpayers' funds. They are being trained by taxpayers' funds. They are being equipped by taxpayers' funds. You do not now carry that gun that taxpayers have bought for you to protect the territorial integrity, then point it back to taxpayers and say, I have to rule over you. So for me, I think there are clear cases, they are not related. Yes, in every election, in every government, you must see disputes. I can't remember the last election, even elections held outside this country. We saw what happened between the saga between Trump and Clinton. Then when it now came to the time of Biden, Trump and Biden, there are still Americans today, Trump supporters, who will tell you that election was rigged from Trump.
Okay, Ahmadine, this is an issue that we can take on for a very long time, but let's just leave that briefly and move on to something else, which is controversial too. Bode, I think a few days ago, the president's spokesperson, Dela Alake, came out to say, you know what, all those names in the media, speculations about the ministerial list are all false, but it's persisting. In fact, it's even getting worse. Yesterday, a lot of our colleagues in the media virtually came out with their own version of the list. Some, without mentioning direct names, some even mention names and everything. They are still there. And we are also expecting this list. And but they remember last week, I think, when I was saying, the National Assembly is resuming, the Senate is resuming, and they are expected to receive the list. And you said they may and they may not. And eventually they did not. So, but this week again, we are expecting they may and they may not. The president still has a few days by law to do this. So, but why is this speculation still on, despite everything?
Yeah, it's normal. You know, people will want to fly kites. Because you want somebody to be a minister, you are not sure whether he's the favorite of the president or not. You want to be mentioning his name to put him in the consciousness of the president. As if the president does not know what he's doing. You understand? So people are flying kites. It's normal. At times, they use the social media to do this. They use the media, the conventional media, to do this. But I can tell you, I go by what the presidential spokesperson to the president said. There are all those things you are buried in the media, whether social or conventional, they are all lies. He said, all those names being mentioned, they don't exist, according to him. And eventually, when the list will be out, you may find some of the names on the list. He may want to just take our mind off that direction. But what people are doing now is no crime, it's normal. It's normal, they want to fly kites. In fact, if I leave this studio now, I may want to put your name and put it on social media and mention it so that the president will also, there is a journalist called Lawrence Umoette, do we consider? So people are flying kites. It's normal in politics, part of the political gimmicks to get attention, to get appointment. But I want to tell you, the president has, yes, President Bola Tinubu fits into the bill of a technocrat, a political, sagacious person. So he knows the kind of people you want to work with. And I can tell you, he have his list close to his chest. What is happening now, the time he's taking now is probably, according to some report, is for security people and anti-corruption agency to do their due diligence on them. Screen them, check their background, they don't have any baggage. then the last people will be the Senate. Take the list and confirm. And that does not mean the Senate will not also find the fault, or the Senate will not ask the right question. So let's see what will happen before the end of this week. And I can tell you certainly next week, the president will say, these are the choice of my ministers. And we'll go and rest. Because definitely, he must appoint ministers. He cannot operate government without ministers. It will be a constitutional aberration. He must appoint ministers. So what is happening is just an impatience.
And there's a time frame this time.
And there is a time frame. So what is happening on our own part is just impatience, which is natural.
Okay, Madine, but they spoke about security clearance, taking a look at the background, doing background checks of these nominees. You've covered the military, even the DSS, you've covered them for a long time. But we've seen cases where even despite security clearance, 2 years, 3 months into their tenure, we discover a lot of some baggage, and you begin to ask questions. How come this person was given security clearance with this kind of baggage?
Now, Lawrence, despite the fact that I keep on saying that we trust the capacity of the Department of State Services, you know that it is not their forte to uncover some of these baggages. That is why it is always said that the press is the fourth estate of the realm. Because the press, too, they have their own eagle eye. That is where their capacity and experience comes into play to bring out that which the normal person does not see, to uncover that which. So it is normal for the press, despite the security clearance. Security clearance means that the intelligence agencies, their forte is to ensure that your name is not mentioned in insecurity circles, that your name is not mentioned when they are talking about sponsoring of terrorism. You have not sponsored insecurity and crisis in your community. That is where their forte is. So when the Department of State Services come out and say, we have cleared him, clearing you does not mean that the press cannot uncover that you forged your NYSC certificate, or you forged your. Clearing you from their own point of view means that this man has not been involved in insecurity issues before. He has not sponsored terrorism. We trust that he will not use his position to sponsor crisis or whatever when he is in government. So while we are waiting, I'm glad Bode mentioned that. That means it, because also some of us also heard that the screening for some of those nominees have already begun. So if my own birds have whispered that to me, and Bode's birds too have whispered that to him, then we are coming to a compromise to say that at least it is true that they are being screened by the DSS. But it does not mean that after the DSS screening, they will come out clean and without baggages in some other area. Yes. Because the DSS will not be going to ask them how did they quarrel with their wife, when did they pay children's school fees, or did they marry another wife and he died in another state. That is the work of the press. That is where investigative journalism comes in and will come out. And also, the work of the press is also complementary to security agencies. In case the security agencies miss it, the press can now come and say, during your own scrutiny, we also heard information that in faraway so and so country, this man was arrested for being engaged. It is then that the security people will now look at it and say, we missed that. But it does not mean they were incompetent. It does not mean they did not do their job well. Everybody is working together to ensure that we get to that perfect state, that utopia, which everybody so desires.
Okay, since Amadine was talking about the birds whispering to people, well, my own bird also whispered to me that we may not have a minister of state this time around.
Probably they are serious about cutting costs of governance.
Well, maybe, but we also know that some ministries, some so-called big ministries will be balkanized, so to speak, just to give
a job for the boys.
And you know, the constitution has also made things not very easy for the president, because there must be at least 36 ministers going by the constitution.
I want to be very honest. This issue is a very complex and complicated issue. Yes, a minister of state or a minister, they are all ministers. Now, I think the idea behind a minister of state is that you don't want to have clash in a ministry, because there are some ministries that are so large that it's not easy for one person. Let me give an example. You talk about a ministry like the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Are you understanding me? How can one person supersede such a humongous ministry? So most of the time, the idea about a minister of state is, okay, we don't want clash. Two of you are here, but we'll speak to this person. You focus on, remember how it was in education those days. When you bring a minister of state for education, you give him basic education and say, you focus on basic education, focus on this. Why the other minister will focus on so and so. But among the two, you are states. Now, but Nigerians have complained because some states still feel shortchanged that if you are sending our representative, why should he be the subordinate of the other, because no state has more rights.
Exactly.
Yes. So this argument have come forth.
It shows that it's not about service.
Yes.
Of course.
This argument have come forth and have always been placed on the table. Now, if the new government thinks that, okay, these people are making a valid point, fair and good. Yes, we heard that those our birds also whispered that yes, they might. You know, some ministers had come out to complain about it because you are appointed as a minister, you went through the same screening, and then somebody who is not that, because when you give a ministerial appointment, it was not then based on competence that you are better than so and so person. You people are appointed to serve in government, and it is in your service that Nigerians will know how competent you are and how much you have contributed. So to now make one person subservient to the other or subordinate to the other is a fundamental problem, and it takes maturity to be able to manage these men and these women at that highest level. So if the new government says that we want to scrap Minister of State, fine and good, but the Constitution mandates that every state will have a minimum of one representative at the Federal Executive Council, and we are hoping that the federal government will not only obey that, but the federal government will consider the FCT, because whether you like it or not, the original inhabitants of the FCT have been shortchanged. If you bring it from anywhere, number one, the other citizens have the privilege to have a governor over them. The original inhabitants do not have a governor. Other citizens, when it comes to education, you hear that so and so states have a catchment area, and so federal university has so and so states under its catchment area to consider those people. Now, tell me which federal university has the FCT as its catchment area? There's none. And
okay, Madin, we need to move on because there's so much a lot. But before we leave, let's get back to bodies. Talking about pressures, and this time I know that I was going through your papers this morning online, and I know that you are completely responsible for what goes into that paper online. There was a story about the Senate President and the Speaker being under pressure because of committees, and that there are rumors that the leaders, the presiding officers of both chambers are considering substantial amount of opposition lawmakers, perhaps as a payback to their contribution during the elections.
Well, I think that's our lead story for today. That's standing committees. Akpabio Abbas under fire for conceding 50% chairs to opposition. Chairs, that's the chairmanship of these committees in both chambers. And you don't blame these people. They didn't emerge from their own political
parties alone.
Capital alone, party alone, and owing to their political capital alone. No, they lean on some persons to emerge. So it's payback time, and it is natural that when you promise, it is natural that you fulfill the promise. So this is just the fulfillment of the promise. That, they promise some persons that see, we do this, we do that. Just make sure you vote for us, and you can see from the election that it wasn't easy for both of them.
Especially in the Senate.
In fact, both. Forget about the number you see in reps. The number you saw in reps was made possible because of the method of voting. The story would have been different if the voting were to be open secret. So in the Senate, where it was open secret, you saw what happened. The Senate president was able to escape with only 12 votes to become the Senate president. It shows that it wasn't a walkover. It was not a walkover. It was not a walk in the park. And it wasn't a tea party as well. So for them to have a stable leadership, to consolidate, they must fulfill promise. If they don't fulfill promise, their leadership of both chambers might be threatened.
And
it's not automatic that anything can happen.
Lawmakers will be waiting for you.
So it's normal in politics, of course, but their party will not be happy with them. Because a majority party will want what we call winners take all. We are used to it. When we are the majority, we want winners take all. And that's what confirmed them as majority party. But now that they are now saying, 50-50, it means they are no longer majority. It means they are sharing privileges with minority parties. So no political party will like that. So of course, Abbas and Akpabio naturally will come under pressure from their political parties for entering into such kind of agreement that bring a majority party at par with minority parties. But these people are doing it for their own political survival. So time will tell whether they will walk the talk or not. And if they walk the talk, what will happen to them politically on one hand, and if they don't walk the talk, what will happen to them politically on the other hand. So time shall tell.
Well, still staying with you, buddy, before I get to Ahmadine, still talking about the issue of pressure in the APC. It looks as if all is not well. I'm talking about the NWC.
Exactly.
Because if you've been listening to recent commentaries from especially the chairman of the party, there are a little bit also whispered to me that something is brewing there.
Yes, these persons, the instrumentality of the party was used to produce them. They called them consensus candidates of the party, before they became Senate President and Speaker. But to the chagrin and surprise of the party leadership, when they want to appoint principal officers for the majority party, they did it on their own without consultation with the same party they used to endorse them to emerge. So Adamu, as national chairman, at his age, exposure and everything, naturally will not pretend to voice his anger that, this is not our choice, this is not our agreement. We have not communicated anybody to you. How come you announce this? But then, these people are relying on Aso Rock to do whatever they are doing. So when Adamu voiced his opposition, Aso Rock summoned Adamu the next day, and that was the end of the story. Adamu concurred. So it's our own type of politics here, that you can use something today and the next 1 hour you throw away that thing. No consistency, no ideology. So the same party they used to climb that position is no longer important to them. Now individuals are important. An individual in this sense is the president. Whatever the president wants, he must get. So
he is the leader of the party.
Yes, but there are structures of the party. There are structures. The NWC is a structure. The NEC is a structure. And they are all, in fact, the NEC in the party politics is even more powerful than the president. Because that is the highest decision-making organ of the party.
That's in theory.
In theory. So this is our own type of politics in Nigeria. And you know what that means, not true.
Because the president is the leader of the party. In fact, if we want to put it bluntly, the president is the party. In principle,
in theory too. In theory too.
In practice, the president is the leader of the party.
But party politics shouldn't be.
One person. I think what has happened is, first of all, on the pressure part is not strange. We have covered the parliament. But let me go to the last issue. I think is a case of how matured you can handle this kind of issue. Because remember when the former CBN governor brought out the Naira swap policy, what was the first? Who opposed it first? It was the Minister of Finance. She came out to say, I have not heard of this. Because whether you like it or not, yet though the CBN is independent, she still oversees it. And that is exactly what is happening. Yes, the kind of politics we play is such that the president is the leader of the party national. Then the governors are the leader of the parties in their state.
In fact, the governors own the party in the state.
Yes, it does not mean that the parties does not have a state chairman or a national chairman. This tells you that the leadership of the Senate, they got their instructions, they had consulted with the presidency. But it took nothing for the leadership of the parliament to inform the party.
As a matter of courtesy.
Yeah, as a matter of courtesy.
Because we understand, Amadine, we understand that was done because Senator Okoyemi Bamidele specifically came out to speak that the party chairman was visited in his private home in Kefi by these officers before their emergence.
No, he was visited, but
they told us it's a beach.
Had he been informed that the president had approved that list? If you inform him that the president had approved this list, I bet you the party chairman will not raise any rancor. Remember that the party chairman was also a member of the parliament. In fact, he became the chairman of the party straight from the Senate while he was a serving senator. So he understands, as a very old elderly politician, he knows how these things work. So for me, I think the leadership of the National Assembly erred without informing him clearly that they had come out with their list, that this is what, and the presidency had approved. Because it, just like Bode said, it took the Aso Rock to call the party chairman to the villa and discuss with the party chairman before the party, those who were upset in the party, had to calm down. That means the presidency was aware of the decision being taken by the leadership of the National Assembly. But just like I said, sometimes courtesy, some things done in courtesy brings an end to a lot of this, because I told someone this morning, there's what you call a utopia, a perfect scenario, but there's what you call a real situation. In as much as you understand that on the books is written in clear black and white, this is how is the culture of that, how is it practiced, how is convention followed, because those are the real situation. Yes, the party chairman on the books is the head of the party, but by convention and by our political culture, the president of the country is the head and leader of the party. So sometimes some of these things don't really need any rift. If one or two people will just come down from their high horse and give out the courtesy the other person deserves, just by way of information.
Okay, gentlemen, we are actually running out of time, but we can't go before we talk about this. Amadine and Bode, I'm sure last week, I think, we are all aware of some viral video about what happened in the southeast during the so-called sit-at-home, where some gory pictures coming from that side, and there's been a lot over the weeks. Even some of the governors are gradually finding their voices condemning it. But as at this morning, feelers from that side still say that the sit-at-home is still on. Are we helpless as a nation?
The truth about the matter is that, first of all, I think the security agencies have the capacity to end this. But they can only end this when the people become tired. If the Southeasterners say we are tired of this, they will work with security agencies. They will give them information, because these people are not ghosts. They live in communities. They move around freely. If you are not ready to help security agencies to solve your problem, then you should not wait for solution, because the police too are not ghosts. The military too are not ghosts. They will work with information that the citizens, just as you said, it was a very sad situation where you see armed men go to primary schools and begin to flog 6-year-olds. My brother, I couldn't stomach it. 6-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and begin to flog them, all in the name of Satan. So how do you want to achieve what's this thing? The objective you say you want to set out for? You say you are fighting. How do you want to? Do you want to achieve it by the butt and the barrel of the gun, or by the support of the people? So yes, it's a sad situation. The governors, thank God, like you said, they have come out. Several governors have now come out to say, no, we will not accept it anymore. Because if you look at the nature of the Southeast, the kind of business they practice, the kind of lifestyle and the rest, that order does not favor them. because they are known to be market people and traders who have to come out and egg their daily living. So you keep a market person at home. How does he achieve your objective, and how does he help him as a person? Someone was calculating the number of days students in the Southeast have lost from going to school. He said in the last minimum they've lost almost 2 months. Sitting at home, their mates are learning in other states, and still you want to continue. It's unfortunate.
But before we go, still on the Southeast, can we not engage in more of a political discussion?
Exactly. It's not by gun, not by the number of security people. I think there is a fundamental problem, very, very fundamental, that nobody is courageous enough to dispassionately talk about. And I want to tell you what is happening is a function of lack of education. The Boko Haram version of the Southeast has just manifested. We have seen that of the North, and everybody agreed there, lack of education and the high illiteracy level was responsible for what we saw for many years. Now in the North, in the Southeast, I discovered that few are going to school. Majority are not. Young person are not going to school. And they've been brainwashed into believing in the Biafra, the elusive Biafra thing that will never happen. And look at what they are doing. And the danger, the worst part now is waging war against themselves, flogging their children, killing themselves. How does that now affect Buhari, former president, or Tinubu in Abuja, when you kill fellow Igbo? Remember the Igboho syndrome, when it happened, the Yorubas were not united as to we want to cover the atrocities of Odua nation. Remember? No. That's one thing about the Southwest. There was no unity as to, no, this atrocity, we all like it. No. And that is why today it has no place. But remember, the Boko Haram endured in the North because there was a collective, unfortunately, a kind of a agreement that, hey, it's our own, the evil belong to us. We must cover it. The same thing is happening in the Southeast. And it will consume the people. And they must borrow a leaf. They must take a cue from the Southwest. And that reflected also in the unfortunate UTME manipulation saga that we just ended. Very, very unfortunate.
In fact,
a kind of,
in fact,
very, very unfortunate thing.
Because at the end of the day,
but the truth is bitter.
And Amadine and Bode, I was pained because during that saga, as you call it, people were not addressing what I consider the main issue.
They went for
people went for primordial ethnic profile.
They said Jam was after the young girl because she was Igbo.
And I asked the question, the person that Jam said came first was also from Anambra State. Understand?
Kamsi Ochuku is Igbo.
And it told me a lot about our country, especially on the social media. Sometimes I just had to shut down and do other things because of the kind of comments we saw, even from people that we call respected.
Some of them are served as in national positions.
Exactly.
Let me surprise you.
They were not focusing on.
The NGO they call Human Rights Association of Nigeria. For the first time, that organization surprised me. Issued a statement slamming Jam for coming for Ejikeme because she's Igbo.
You didn't even
NGO.
You didn't even talk about a former minister who came out publicly and were saying it has to be investigated.
No,
and why
that was okay.
No. From the position was that
if the young girl was picked on.
Yes,
but at least she was a bit. She covered whatever.
She covered it, but we saw it. That is why we are calling her. Yes. This girl must be punished. But what is forensic about Jam coming out to say this is our data? What do you need forensic
exactly.
for?
Then she coming out to the young girl for against Jam, an institution.
And exactly, because if we are to call for forensic
then you should say
investigation for everything that comes out, so there will be issues.
What is wrong is wrong.
So that tells you we are not one yet. We have in Nigeria on paper, we don't have Nigeria in heart, we don't have organic country, and we have a lot of work to do to make this country work. And that's why we have this insecurity.
It's not. Don't say we. It's for some people.
No, yeah. I was just coming to that.
They belong to the society. They belong to us.
My brother, if somebody chooses to be myopic and ethnic biased,
yes,
that is his own cup of tea.
He's enjoying your country.
See, I've covered the military. Have you ever gone to the field where you see these soldiers on the field?
Exactly.
See, in the military, there's nothing like religion. There's nothing like ethnicity.
Exactly.
You are given an order, and you advance. When you are going to confront the enemy, nobody remembers whether the next person beside him is Hausa, Ibira, and the rest. Everybody is working in unison. That is why I will always disagree when they say we are not one. No, a few people. Jesus had 12 disciples. No, let me finish. No. Jesus had 12 disciples. One decided to follow money. Did it mean that the 11 were following money? No.
Okay,
we have 250 ethnic groups. Hey. Are you understanding me now? So if you want to look at it one by one, you will not say there are so many ethnic groups, so many people across all ethnic groups. I said across all. There's no, I'm not separating it by ethnic group. There are so many people across all ethnic groups that are full-fledged Nigerians. They are patriotic. They stand for the. Remember the viral video that came up a few years ago of the young man in US that got the best graduating this thing. When he came out, he said, "See, I am a Nigerian. This is how we hail from where I came from." Every Nigerian saw that video and was proud.
Okay, gentlemen, we actually need to go. But I think I also agree with Amadine. See, Nigerians generally, buddy, we are good people. As journalists, we travel across the world, across the country. There was a time I was with my cameraman. I was stranded in Kebbi at around 12 a.m. After 12 to 1 in the morning. I didn't even know that community, but somebody I didn't know housed us with my cameraman, and in the morning went to almost 4 kilometers to get water for us to freshen up, and he organized transport for us to find ourselves back to Berlin, Kebbi, the state capital. I never knew this man. Far away. He didn't ask me where I'm, and Amadine has spoken about the military. I remember also 2013, 2014, during the reign of General Lukolade as a spokesperson of defense, we went to that territory and we spent almost 12 days in that place, and we met Nigerian officers and men from across the country who laid their lives for Nigeria. So it's the elite, people who when they want something, they say, they bring up the issue of religion, all these divisions,
they are raising an army of uninformed.
And the unfortunate thing is that most of these people, when they want to engage people to work for their companies, they don't say get person from my tribe. They go for the best. Exactly. When they want to employ pilots for their private jets, they go for the best pilot. When they are traveling, they want to get a medical doctor, they go for the best medical doctor, and the rest of the thing. Gentlemen, we've run out of time completely, and this is the first time on the program. Gentlemen, Bode Gbadebo, online editor at the Leadership newspaper, thank you so much. And also my brother Amadine Uyi, thank you so much. Insight will return tomorrow. Have a beautiful day.
Abuja.
The time is 11 o'clock.
Time for news on the hour.
Good morning. Welcome to Citizen FM News at 11. I am Deborah Innocent. No fewer than 4,560 kilograms of skunk have been seized in interdiction operations in Lagos, Adamawa and Osun by operatives in the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. The NDLEA also raided a Scotch's factory in Ogun and arrested 4 members of a drug syndicate, including 2 church officials. The bust of the fentanyl cartel operating from Warri, Delta State is coming barely a month after 2 members of another syndicate were arrested at Obogu Market, Onisha Head Bridge, Onisha South Local Government, Anambra State. This following months of intelligence-led investigation of the syndicates behind the dangerous drug, which is 100 times more potent than heroin and currently responsible for over 70% overdose deaths in the United States. A report by FITC has revealed that bank customers in Nigeria lost 427 million naira to fraud in the first quarter of 2023. It has also disclosed that there was a total of 12,553 cases of fraud recorded within this period. FITC's institutional members and members of the Nigerian Bankers Committee, which comprises the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Nigeria Deposit Insurance Company, and all licensed banks in Nigeria. The data, however, showed a deadline in losses compared to what was lost to fraudulent banking activities in Q4 2022. According to FITC, a total of 3.18 billion naira was lost to fraudsters across banking platforms in Q4 2022, which means that the losses declined by 85.13% in Q1 2023. Spanish rescuers are searching waters off the Canary Islands for boats carrying at least 200 African migrants who went missing more than a week ago. The aid group Walking Borders said the fishing boat sailed from Kafountine, a coastal town in southern Senegal that is roughly 1,700 kilometers, that is 1,057 miles from Tenerife. The group says many children are on board. Spain's FN News agency reports 2 similar boats carrying dozens more people are also said to be missing. Spain's Maritime Rescue Service told EFE that a plane had joined the search. The boat with 200 people on board left Kafountine on 27th June, heading for the Canary Islands. Former Barcelona and Inter Milan midfielder Luis Suarez, the only male footballer born in Spain to win the Ballon d'Or, died at the age of 88 on Sunday. Nicknamed the Architect, the Spaniard won the prestigious award in 1960 and later coached La Roja at the 1990 World Cup. He played for Barca between 1954 and 1961 before going to Inter Milan, where he is also a legend. Suarez was loved in Italy after becoming one of the league's most celebrated midfielders at Inter Milan under coach Heleno Herrera in the 1960s, whom he followed from Barcelona. And that's the Citizen FM News on the hour. It's edited by Lawrence Umoette. I am Deborah Innocent. Good morning.